to go ahead and introduce Noorez, who's going to talk to us a little bit about making things look better in our SharePoint lists and libraries. So Noorez, go ahead and take it.
Okay, can you confirm you can hear me okay again?
Great.
Perfect. Okay, welcome everybody to today's session on beautifying your SharePoint lists and libraries using modern list formatting capabilities. And I just wanted to start off with saying that if you're not familiar with it and you're coming from classic to modern or on-premise SharePoint to modern, the new modern SharePoint list experience, it really allows people the ability to customize columns and views and forms to look based on predefined business logic and column data. You don't have to have SharePoint Designer, you don't have to have a crazy skill set anymore. And the purpose of this session is really just to show the regular user how you guys can take advantage of many of the things that you guys have accessible to you with modern formatting. So before we begin, just a little bit about myself. My name is Noorez Khamis. Everybody calls me Rez. I've been a Microsoft MVP for about 11 years now. And I'm also VP Technology of two companies, Creo Spark, which is a Microsoft 365, Azure, and Power Platform consulting organization, as well as Cloud Spark, where we build Teams apps. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. My contact information is right there. But let's get into it because we got a lot of stuff to cover in this session. As we said earlier, make sure to thank our sponsors, right? Go visit them in the virtual teams we have set up. Really nice for them to give away some prizes. Thank you so much to the sponsors and the community partners as well. We always want to be a part of the community. As an MVP myself, it's really important to do the events such as this and help out our community to learn and love the technologies we're dealing with on a daily basis. Also, make sure you contribute if you can. Please donate to the Microsoft 365 Chicago by supporting the Chicago Public Schools Fund. Please do that. And obviously, we want a little bit of speaker feedback. Let me know how I can improve on, if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts for the next session, how we can all improve on. Here's the link there, and then you should have seen that throughout the day. And obviously, the sponsors are giving a lot of raffles and giveaways, so go visit them in their teams that they have set up and their channels that they have set up in the tech community. Okay, so some ground rules for today's session. Today is not a developer session. So if you are a developer, hopefully you already know this stuff, but you might not. I would advise to stay. But what I want to really do today is show some real life examples on how you guys, as the regular business user or end user, somebody who's just getting into SharePoint, how you can give everybody who's using your SharePoint environment, your Microsoft lists, your SharePoint libraries, and Microsoft Teams a great experience without doing really any coding. Honestly, I don't want to do any coding in this session. It has nothing to do with coding. It's just showing the regular user how you can give great experiences. And really, if you know how to copy, paste, follow instructions, and find and replace text, you should be good for this session. So again, very high level, showing you how to create really nice, beautiful experiences for this session. So let's talk a little bit about first, modern lists and libraries. First of all, if you're coming from the SharePoint Classic world, what I mean by that is old versions of SharePoint, SharePoint 2016, SharePoint 2013, SharePoint 10, it's been there for a long time. You're used to it working in a certain way. Now, with the move to the cloud, Microsoft has given us this concept of modern lists and libraries, which are automatically mobile and tablet friendly. They are responsive. They're really easy to use. You can add columns right from the same screen. You're adding your data in. You could reorder, sort, filter, create views all from those screens, add your data, add your metadata. And that's the cool thing about new age web-based technologies. And Microsoft has incorporated that in modern lists. And what you can do is elevate your data quality by viewing and editing all the item details in this new information panel without leaving the list. And you're also going to be increasing productivity by bulk editing items. It used to be a big pain in the neck in the old versions of SharePoint for us to do any type of bulk editing. We usually had to get a third-party tool for the most part because the data grid view was not good enough. You can also enrich static information with really good, really nice data types and formatting, which we're talking about today. Obviously, there's some changes that have happened from the classic mode. You now have a command bar instead of a ribbon. It's easier to add files as links. You get beautiful previews. You get new fields such as location-based metadata and a lot more, right? And what we're really here to talk about is how we can use modern formatting capabilities of libraries and lists to give those great experiences. Now, what's different? You have a responsive quick launch for tablets and mobile phones. Obviously, the ribbon is replaced by the command bar. You now have a filter icon. You have an info icon. And it uses Microsoft Search to anytime you want to search within the library or list. So why do we want to use modern libraries and lists? Well, for a library perspective, you can create new folders, upload folders the same way you do in OneDrive, so you don't have that ribbon anymore. You can drag and drop. You can easily copy and move using the command bar. You can pin documents to highlight them. You can add files instead of copying between sites. You can use moving copying capabilities really easily. And you could add, reorder, resize, sort, all from the same view and same screen. So before I go on, for the people who are just really getting into it, I just want to do a quick demo on a modern library and a modern list. So what we wanted to do is just take a look at a regular list or library. So here I have a modern list here. And you can see it very looks like the classic mode. We've got the title, we've got the postal code, store name, you name it. You could add your columns, you could import it in. But there's some new stuff you have here. You have this view selector where you can quickly save your views. And in fact, as I expand and contract my columns, you see this little star here that's happening. It actually saves that. And if you want to save that column, you could do that as you're doing your changes to the view. You have this filter where you can filter on all of the metadata that you have in your library or list. You have this details pane, and the details pane, as you select the items, that's where you could actually specify your properties and the site columns that you want to populate for that list item. Okay. And then obviously you have the option to expand it into a full menu. And then this is a command bar. This is a contextual command bar which replaces the ribbon. And I want to go over this first, just in case there's some brand new people to modern lists and libraries. You have this new button, so when you want to add a new item, you can do that. You got an edited and grid view, so instead of, you could do the bulk editing, and this is the version that I like doing, so I can quickly change the status if this is a yes, no, right here, I go and change it, and same with the majority of the fields I can edit directly from here. So change my target, right? And then I have the stuff that I'm used to, like the ability to being able to export to Excel and CSV, the integration with rules, automation rules, integration with Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI as well, and a bunch of other stuff. So that kind of gives you a quick tour around what a modern list look like. Now, a modern library is pretty much the same thing, except what's important about a library, it just has a document associated with it, right? You still have the same details pane, and you still have the information there with the nice preview and the metadata that you're looking for. You got your version history and everything that you can get to from either the command bar or the little ellipse. Okay, so that gives you a quick tour around a modern library and a modern list. So why would we even want to improve the formatting on a list? First of all, the concept of SharePoint lists are not new, but many lists go unused after a lot of time, and you probably found that in terms of libraries and lists in your SharePoint sites. The initial novelty of transforming an Excel file into a web-based list is amazing, because what that does is give everybody access, and everybody has the ability to contribute to it without emailing around these spreadsheets everywhere around your organization. And modern lists are really strongly geared towards providing better visuals for those users who have those shorter attention spans, right? And you don't want to sift through all these list items to find what you're looking for. Or just like you would not want to do that in a massive Excel spreadsheet. You want to be able to find what you want really quickly. On top of that, it looks prettier, easier to read by adding formatting to a list. You get visual representations of your data. You can have immediate callouts and quick actions. You can have actionable items. So I want to edit it. I want to invoke a flow or an approval workflow, right? You have the ability for custom list creation. You have the ability to import from Excel. And the whole idea is that you want to give the user an easier way to interpret that automatically mobile friendly. So who doesn't like visual appealing ways of interpreting data and knowing when to action on the item, right? We're spoiled. We want that, right? So why can't we do it with modern functionality? Now, before I go into the column formatting, I just want to talk about Microsoft lists because still I'm finding through a lot of my customers, they understand SharePoint lists, and then we talk about Microsoft lists and they're like, what is Microsoft lists? So Microsoft lists are pretty much SharePoint lists, but they've kind of expanded it out into its own element because we understand that everybody works with lists on a daily basis, right? Whether you're tracking your issues, your assets, your routines, your contacts, inventory, you name it, you're usually working with a list. So Microsoft created this concept of a list, which is in the back end, nothing other than SharePoint. And it works across your Microsoft 365 ecosystem with your lists app, your SharePoint apps, your Microsoft Teams, your app launcher, your app bar. You're able to create your lists, create and share your lists. You're able to start from ready-made templates or other lists that you've already have in your environment. That's something we didn't have in the old version of SharePoint. And you can also import in Excel if you already have it. You can customize your list through click to edit templates that Microsoft has already given you, or by using the Power Platform if you're familiar with Power Apps. And then the other aspect, which we just saw, is the automation capability, which allow you to add rules and notifications to keep everybody in sync. And in the back end, it already has that enterprise-ready security that we need from a same type of SharePoint-based permissions and same type of Microsoft 365 group permissions that you can always leverage in your list. And you can assign list items to individual users and comment and collaborate. So if you've never worked with Microsoft lists, that lookbook is a great place to start, gives you some great ideas on how to use it. So what I wanted to do is jump right to a little demo just to show you what a Microsoft list is, right? So the first thing I wanted to do, why is that in the way? Let's see if I can stop showing that. Okay. Anyways, I'll go here. The first thing I want to show was from office.com. Okay. I always tell my customers to start with office.com. That's how you're going to get to all of your Microsoft 365 services. So as an example, we're talking about Microsoft lists. So all we have is here on the left-hand side is this app launcher. When we open up this app launcher, we see our lists app right here. And then we also see it down here on the left-hand side. So with that list app, it opens up a list creation capability. And I'm going to bypass all this. And then right from here, you can create a new list. And from this screen, as I said earlier, you can create your own custom list from a blank list where you're adding your own columns and your items to it. You can import your list from Excel or an existing list you have on your site. So it goes and shows me all the sites, and I could choose where I want my list to mimic from, because a lot of times we're using the same lists across all of our SharePoint sites, and from sometimes individually as well. And then you also have lists from Microsoft, so things like an issue tracker, an employee onboarding, event itinerary, all of these types of different lists. And then if your organization has special templates, they can add your organizational list templates as well, if you're using them a lot across your organization. Now, you not only get to lists from this app, you can get to it from Teams as well. So let's open up Teams. And normally, if I'm following my best practices, you go to the app launcher, you click on Teams. And from Teams, you're able to add lists to your team. So here's an example of the general channel in the retail team. All I want to do is add the lists app here. I just do a search on it by clicking on the plus button. And then I got the list app showing up. And on here, I'm able to do that same type of thing where I'm creating my list from all those templates, either from Microsoft or my organization. Or you can show an existing list, or I can even pin an existing list from a SharePoint site behind the tab. Now, the other way of doing it is obviously via SharePoint. So here is my home page. It's called the perspective. And if I want to create a list, it's as easy as creating a list from here, right? And you get that same consistent view that we just saw everywhere. Now, the cool thing about these lists, Microsoft has done a lot of the work for you guys from an issue perspective. They've defined all the columns. They've already done some nice column formatting for you here, right? Using these little, what they call pillboxes. You know, so for example, the issue tracking, employee onboarding, right? So this is the views. If we look at the event itinerary, and I'm going to try to find one where we have a capacity, and they've done a little bit of formatting on here where it shows a little bar. And this is the kind of things you guys can do to make it really more impactful to your users. So if I show you an example of some of the ones I created from theirs out of the box, here's an example of a list formatting of asset manager that was just created from their lists, and I just populated some data. So here's another one for an event itinerary, right? And here's another one for travel requests, right? So I didn't populate any data there, but you get the idea. So that's kind of where Microsoft lists come in. So everything that I'm talking about today, you can apply SharePoint formatting and list formatting to SharePoint lists or Microsoft lists, and you can render them within Teams. So that's kind of why I segued there for a second, just to talk about Microsoft lists. So what is modern formatting really? Okay, modern formatting really allows you to customize how your lists and libraries are displayed within SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, or across your Microsoft 365 experience. And what you're doing is on your lists, because think about it, a list is nothing more than a table in your Excel or a worksheet in Excel. Within your worksheet in Excel, you have your table, you've got columns and rows, and then you've got the entry capability. So what you're able to do is, with the modern formatting capability, is apply styles to either a column, a row, or which is the entire view in the SharePoint term, in the Microsoft list term, or the individual form where we're actually editing and creating a new piece of data. So those are the three places, and you'll see those themes throughout this presentation as we're talking about it. The next thing you can do is you can create and style your own buttons and links in those columns without affecting the data. So it's basically a layer on top of the view that you're seeing without affecting the data. So you don't have to worry about the underlying data. All you're doing is formatting the data. And you can also do conditional and custom formatting based on the data you have. For example, if you want a date range, you want to do something with it. So you'll see an example, a start date and an end date. You might want to calculate the number of years, but you don't want to create a piece of data for that. You just want to render it on the list, right? Before in Classic, we'd usually have to create a calculated column or some sort of workflow that populated the data. Now you don't have to do that anymore. And with modern formatting, you can also have some simple data visualizations and clickable actions as well as part of that. And then now this is where this is the only time I'm going to get technical here, but lists are driven by this concept called JSON, and that's JavaScript object notation. And that is basically a really common programming language that people use. And Microsoft also, people use in your public websites, and everybody's creating a website is probably using some sort of JSON capability. And Microsoft also uses those capability in their underlying services like Viva Connections, like Search, like Adaptive Cards, like Power Automate Flows. And if you want to know what JSON is, you don't have to know it for this session. You can go to that link, and I'm going to make the presentation available for everybody after this. And if you want to know what JSON looks like, just look at this right-hand section here, and that's really what JSON looks like. You got a open and close bracket, and you have some data within your quotes, and then I'm not going to go through it because I'm not a developer anymore, and I don't like developing. I just like copying and pasting, as I said at the beginning of this. So when we're formatting our lists, what we're going to do is apply that piece of code to apply our custom formatting. And now, a lot of the times, we don't even have to know any code. We're pretty much just copying and pasting, or we're using the Microsoft provided templates, right? They've already done the underlying JSON for you, and they show you it in a UI format that you understand. You could build your own JSON if you want to get into the code, or you can use pre-built open source JSON objects. And I'm going to show you how easy that third one is. The first one and the third one is, right? Because I don't want to build my own JSON in this session. Because again, I'm not a developer. The other thing I want to start with really is the fact that you already are probably using some sort of column formatting in your modern views, because when you guys actually upload some data to a library that has a required field. So example down here, sex is a required field. It already prompts you with some information, and that's called the required info section. And at the very top, you actually have a view that shows you all the files that need attention, right? Or items that need attention. And I'll quickly demo a capability there, which shows that. So here, if I go to my retail accounts, I basically got a list. And in this list, I have made some of the columns required, or I can make them required. So as an example here, I could add another column called, let's use that in retail accounts. Let's call it area. So we'll do a choice called area. So let's say North America, Europe, and we'll say Asia. Okay, so now here I want to make that column required by just saying require that this column contains information. And right away we see in this section here a couple things lit up. The first thing is this area where it told me I need some more information in here. Get me that information. So this kind of, before in the old SharePoint world, we used to be uploading without the information we needed, so nobody was able to act on it. Now there's a visual cue telling you need that information. And this is, again, a concept of list formatting. Now there's this other view, which is either files or items. In this case, it's a list, so it tells me that there's items that need attention. So if I have thousands of list items and some people are not filling all the information, I can go to this items that need attention view, and it tells me the columns and the metadata that is missing that you need to populate. Right, so a nice capability there, and that's kind of the first thing I want to show you. You're probably already using this, right? So let's go in a little bit deeper now. So I said this earlier that there's three real types of formatting right now, and there's column formatting, view formatting, and form formatting. Okay? Form formatting is fairly new in the last year or so, but column and view have been there for a while. So like I said earlier, a column is when you want to act upon one of the metadata columns in your list. So in this case that I'm showing here, in this case here, I'm putting somebody's Twitter handle there. And what it does, it goes out to and finds the URL, gets the image from the Twitter and populates it right here. And then when I click on them, when I click on those, it'll actually open it up their Twitter feed, right? And same with this one. Instead of exam complexity, might be 1 to 10, and showing a little bar based on the complexity. The marking status, is it done? So I'm showing different colors. So that's a lot more effective than going to a view like this, which is pretty boring in my opinion. So let's go to that all items view. This is pretty boring. It'd be nice to have some information and some visual cues here, right? So this is the effect. So now on the column side, that's the column side, but let's look at the view side. The view side acts upon that entire row. So in fact, all of the rows in that table. So here, basically, what I'm doing is a rule that says if there's a problem with the marking status and it has issues, highlight the entire row red. So whoever's coming to this page knows that this data has issues, right? So that's an example of view formatting. Now, the other one is form formatting. When I'm composing an item, I can make it look really nice. Like I could change the footer and the header and pass some of the information from the data right to here. So this is an example of form formatting. And don't you think that looks nicer than all of this stuff at the bottom, right? If we were to look at the data at the bottom, it's harder to get an understanding of it compared to what we've done at the top. I want to see the stuff at the top and formatted nicely as an end user. Okay, so how do we get to these options? So let's actually jump to the demo again and go to our retail one. So in order to do column formatting, it's a column formatting. So obviously what I would do is go to any column. I'd go to my column settings and find this under column settings. I've got format this column, which is pretty intuitive considering it's called column formatting, right? So that's where I get to. If I want to format all the rows here, or the view formatting, I would go to the view selector here, and this one's a little bit tricky one. This is called the view selector, and then you scroll down and there is a format current view here. So we'll select the format current view, and then I got my view formatting options, and I'm not going to go into what those are yet. Now, the other one that I want to use is the form formatting. So in order to do that, I just select an item, and that did not work. Give me 1 second. There we go. So let's go to the details pane, and you can click on the new button, and it's going to the wrong view here for a second. And I'm going to go skip to my other demo. This is Chicago. So I'm going to pizzas. So here we go. So I clicked on the new, and at the top right, this one's a little bit hidden. It's this little button here, this drop down. And this drop down allows me to configure the layout. So it allows me to do a couple things like editing the columns that I want to show here. It allows me to configure the layout right here. And I could apply my formatting to 3 elements, either the header, the body, or the footer, when I'm looking at this piece of data. Because honestly, I'd rather look at it like this at the bottom than this right here, right? So this is how I can make that form look a lot nicer. Now, if I want more powerful capability, I can customize with Power Apps. And that's a whole separate session where we go into Power Apps customization of list forms and in general, and connecting to various different data sources. Okay, so that's how you get to the 3 options. So again, just to reiterate, if you want to do column formatting, then what you do is you just go to any column, go to this column settings, and then you go to formatting the column. And then if you want to do view formatting, you go to here and format the current view. And then if you want to go to form formatting, you just click on the new, and then you got this drop down here, configure layout. Okay, so now let's jump back here. So those are the 3 types. So here's some of our favorite formatting options. Okay, so as you can see, there's tons of ways you can format. There's lots of basically pieces of JSON you can copy to make it format the way you want it. And Microsoft has given you a lot of those types of things. And you could see a lot of those. They're published open source. And I'm going to put the link here. And this is what we're going to be using in the latter part of the demo to get to all these formatting options. So if I click on this link now, and I'm going to open up this browser, this is where I get to. And this GitHub repository shows all the list formatting. And this is open source, and people are adding more and more stuff. And this is where you get to the 3 different types: column, form, and view samples, right? Column formatting, form formatting, and view formatting. So when I go into column samples, let's say I want a color-based smiley face, right? So there's an example of how it could look. Let's say I want a custom hover card. This is an example of how it could look. So all these are ready and easy to use for you to assign and start using. If Microsoft does not have out of the box what you're looking for, and I'm going to go to some of the out of the box in a second. I just wanted to call out some people who have done such a great job on all of the list formatting capabilities. So there's Chris Kent, and he's published a lot of these videos as part of the Microsoft Tech community, and I put the link as part of the resources here. So here's an example of some of the formatting he's done in all these columns. He's done some other cool stuff, like at the bottom where you have the footer formatting as well. He's also done some really cool stuff, such as formatted into, like, instead of like a list view that we're used to, formatting each one into a little card. And then he's done some other cool stuff, which is able to pull in the information about a location from an image and show it really nice, right? So really powerful things. So here's a customization of an events list formatting. And then here's even a nicer one of an employee onboarding solution you could do. So don't you think that looks a lot nicer than a bunch of columns and a bunch of rows, right? This is the kind of the power of the list formatting capabilities we're calling here. Another person, Tetsuya Kawahara, his link is right here. He's done some really awesome stuff too. So here you go. Here's an example. There's another example. Lots of other stuff he's done. And you get to see the art of the possible here. All we're doing is converting this 10% into this. Wouldn't you rather look at this than that, right? So people have done the work for us. So why not use it? Let's jump into what you can do with out of the box. So let's say everything I'm showing you today, forget it. I don't want to go and search the internet and go to my links and go to my presentation. I just want to use what's out of the box. So Microsoft provides a lot of really powerful functionality out of the box too. So an example of some of those are these formatting templates. From a column perspective, you could change the background colors. And all it is, there's a little GUI there that says, if it's this choice, then I want it this color. Everybody could do that, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Or I can do those choice pills that I showed you earlier. Or I can do conditional formatting. So if the answer is yes, then I want the whole row formatted to be red. Okay, so that's kind of on the column side that Microsoft gives you out of the box. On the view side, what they give you is an alternating row style. So if you just want it to look nice, we all do that in our tables. It's really makes it a lot easier to read. We've got same conditional formatting. And then we've got our card designer, because in views, there are two types of views. There's a list view and a gallery view. And this is brand new in the last year or so, where you got a card view and a gallery view where you can actually see all the information about your item within a card view that you're looking at. And let's actually jump and demo that. Not the one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to do some out-of-the-box formatting. So what I'm going to do is first refresh this guy. And I'm going to go to some column formatting options. So let's go and look at a column. So this is the best pizza in Chicago list, where I have the name of the place, I've got a rating, I've got the address, I've got the cuisines they do, I've got a phone number, I've got the website to go to, who's the head chef, when was their hire date, when was their termination date, and a picture. And are they certified, and their latest test result. Okay, so that's an example of a list that I wanted to just put it for this example. So what I can do is, if I want to format any column, what I can do is just click on this, and then I go to column settings, and then I go format this column. And then Microsoft is smart enough, based on the column type, if it's a yes, no, if it's a number, if it's a choice, it'll give you the different things you can do. So in this case, it's a rating one. So here, if I use this rating, it will increase the size of the blue box based on the rating. That's a nice, really, everybody can click a button, right? And then you could go and edit the template. So you could set a minimum value and a maximum value. So let's say 5, right? And maybe the minimum is 2, because nobody could be as bad as 2, right? So, and then you could change the colors, right? So really, really easy capabilities what you can do. So let me actually apply one here. We'll go format this column, and let's apply that rating. So now you've also got conditional formatting as well. So if we want conditional formatting, we would use a field like, let's say, test result, column settings, format this column, conditional formatting. Okay, so I click on conditional formatting. Okay, so show value is as. So if, certified is equal to yes, then what I want to do is show the list item as green, as an example. Okay, so, and then what it will do is certify that, okay, is not equal to yes. Let's just do that. Okay. So there we go. So here it changed. So you can see how you can do column formatting using the out-of-the-box capabilities, and we show you an example of conditional and the bars. and then it recognizes based on that. Now, on a date, it has other settings as well. Format dates, right? So we can go and take a look at this, format dates, and you can edit the rules. And you'll play around. There's other types of options as well. So if I have this cuisines, this is a choice field, because if I look here, if I go edit this, these are the different choices I have here. It'll give me some options such as, when I format this column, choice pills, right? Do you see how this is starting to look nicer and nicer as we go through it? Now, so that's kind of the default column formatting. Now let's look at the default view formatting options. So let's go to the view formatting, and what we'll do is I showed you earlier, you go to the view selector, you click on format view, and then you'll go to, do I want alternate styles? Do I want conditional formatting? No, I don't. So I'm going to I'll just use this one and do that. Okay, so that you get those same rules, show all values as, if a column equals this, then you want to highlight the whole row. Right? So very, very easy to configure. So let's just save that and go to the next one. So now the default formatting, I already showed you that. I'm not going to really go through it, but the options here are, you basically have to you have to paste in your JSON. Microsoft hasn't given us a lot of out of the box capabilities of formatting yet, and I'm sure they will. Right? Because it would be nice to show it all in that header view that I showed earlier. But from here you could do other things like edit the columns and customize with Power Apps that whole form view. So let's go a little bit faster. Okay, so what are some supported customization components? I don't want to go into all of these. You get the presentation, but those on those columns on the right-hand side are supported for column formatting. All of these different types. These are not supported right now. Hopefully will be soon. Right? And then you can, within your JSON, you can go and customize the div span A. Again, more if you know CSS and HTML. But again, I'm not focusing on the developer side. But if you are a developer, you can use those capabilities to almost customize a lot. You have these predefined classes you can tap into. So Microsoft gives you those predefined classes, which apply for your theme as well. And then for all else, if this doesn't meet your needs, then you developers can have this capability where you can create your own fields using the field customizer. Okay? And obviously, we all know classic functionality, classic list still exists, but all of this stuff that I'm showing you does not exist. So how do we do this? And I forgot the how. Apologize. All we're going to do is copy JSON from samples. Before we start showing you some examples, and I'm going to go really fast when I show you, but the concept here is that it requires manage lists permission. The elements are styled when a column or row or form is rendered in a list view. Again, it does not make any changes to the data in your list or library, so you don't have to worry about messing up your data when you're doing this. You could deploy with also your custom site designs for you developers who are deploying a whole site based on a template, based on a design. You could attach these column formatting with the JSON underneath it. And with all the samples, if you know how to copy paste, you could use it, right? And this is kind of what I showed you earlier, that GitHub repository. I'm going to show you how it's so easy to use this. All you got to do is go to github.com PNP list formatting, or my blog, and I just wanted to show you this. I haven't updated it in a while, but I plan on updating it soon so you guys can have that one view. You saw you had to click in to everywhere to actually see that. So I actually put in my blog item, here's examples of what it looks like. And you can go to this blog and say, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, right? So then it just points you to the location where you can get it with that same GitHub repository. Okay. Then have a read through all those column name requirements for the provided sample and the JSON. So I'm going to click on this again. So for each sample, so if I go to the column sample, if I want a comment count, we go and look at this. So let's say, because now, hopefully everybody knows, but you have the ability to comment within your list items too. So if you want to show the number of comments against your list items, and you want it to look like this, I scroll down. This is what I want it to look like, and I'll just quickly look at this view requirements, and it says the column name has to be called comment count. Now, what you do is you just download the JSON and then just do a find and replace in Notepad, and then you're able to replace it with whatever fields you want, right? So here's one that was created by Chris Kent, who I was talking about earlier. Right? So then understand the name of your columns, as those are used in the JSON. So you'll have to find the name of your column. So if I go back here, okay. So here I have special names of my columns, right? Like termination date and picture. Usually it's just termination date in one word. It takes away the space when we're doing it, or picture, or hire date. However, in some cases, it might have certified with a question mark. And how you find those, again, this is like a little tip. This is how I do it. Everybody does it their own way. But I go to list settings, and I just hover over like head chef here. And I copy this into a link. I open my trusty notepad. I paste that in. And then I look at the end, and that's actually the internal name that I got to use in my JSON and all that. Okay. Okay, so and then once you do that, a little bit of find and replace in Notepad with the JSON they give you. You just got to paste into the advanced section of the column or view formatting. So if I want to do like cuisines here, and I want to go to column settings, and I want to format the column, and let me just refresh this. For some reason, sometimes I have one selected. So if I want to format this phone number, I go here. I want to use conditional formatting. No, I want to paste in my JSON from somewhere else. And this is where I just click on this. I choose the column I want to act in, and I want to just paste it in here or play around with this one. Okay. So that's as easy as you do. Okay, so let's do some column formatting and have fun with that now. So the first thing I want to do is, as I said earlier, we have this PNP. So let's actually just go and show you how I do it. So this is my list, formatting PNP. And as an example, I want to go to my column samples. The first thing I want to do is show the comment count. So here's a comment count right here. And it tells me that it looks like this. It tells me that it needs a column name column count and comment count. And then there's the JSON right here. I just click on this JSON, and I don't care what this looks like because I'm going to create a column that's the same one. So then I'll go to my perspective, and I'll go to my list that I have. This one is best pizza in Chicago. And then if you guys didn't know, you got this capability now where you can have comments on all your list items. So if we scroll down here, you could comment and right from here. Right? Here is my comment. So I want to show all the comments that have happened here into the comment count field. So what I'm going to do is create a comment count field, and I've already done this for the sake of time. We go to column settings, format this column. I go to advanced mode and just copy Control A and Control V. Save this guy, and right away, easy as that. Everybody could do that. So let's say that I want to know the years of service because I have a hire date and a termination date for these people. Okay, so I want to do some calculation. So again, let's go back here. Let's go back to a couple, and then we'll go to years of service. So let's do a search on years. Okay, maybe that's not it. This one is date difference. So maybe there's a date difference. Here we go. So basically shows me, but this time it was born and died, right? So they're saying that the internal name has to be born and died because this is kind of a calculation of how old that person is, right? But I have a different field name. So what I've done is so what I'm going to do is click on this guy and just copy this. I can either copy it from there or copy it from here. Go to my trusty notepad. So where's my notepad? Here's my notepad. I'll paste that in. In my case, it is hire date and termination date. So I'll just find out that where it says died. So that would be termination date. And here would be born, which would be a hire date. So I'll copy this guy into that field. So let's go to that years of service. Column settings, format this column. Advanced mode, Control A, Control V, paste, and years of service. Did that calculation. right? So let's do some other cool stuff. Okay. Went ahead. Let's do some, how about approval status? Let's say that this person had to be approved to be Michelin, and we had an approval workflow on this. I want to show it nicely. So what I'll do is go back a couple things here, and then what we'll do is, let's do a search on approval. Is this the one? No, not that one. I don't like that one. Let's find another approval one. Here's a hover card, and then I want it to look like this based on approval status. So what I'm going to do is select this guy and copy that into my clipboard. And then what I will do is go back to my list. And is it approved? I just column format this one, paste what I just have in my advanced mode, preview it to make sure it's working, and it shows me it's all pending. Now, as I hover over it, it could show me if you have a workflow assigned to it and just using the out-of-the-box capabilities, then it would be able to show you what status it is and how you could do that. And I'm not going to, maybe I'll quickly show you how to do that. So you could just configure your flows. Do you want approvals? You just enable that there, and then you just submit it for approval, and then it'll change and show you a nice hover there. The other thing I want to show you is just the test result. Last one, I'll just quickly show you. So a test result, actually, I already have that one formatted. Next thing I want to show you is probably like a quiz or a smiley. Let me just go into my, just closed it by accident. There we go. So let's say I'm going to show a little smiley face because if they have a good rating. Right, so I'll go here and column settings, format this column, and I don't want to use the out-of-the-box one. I'll use my little, save this guy, and now if they've got a good rating, then it's a smiley face. All right, so you can see what you can do, and all of these are in these samples. Right, so the next thing I want to show you is the view formatting, because you could do some cool stuff. So on that same list, on a different list that I have here, and I will go to my list formatting. I've got this retail accounts, and I've added some columns which are going to help me with some view formatting. So if I go to, instead of my column formatting, I'm going to go to my view formatting option from the GitHub, and I click on view samples, and the one I want to go to is a butterfly. So in a butterfly, it just shows a whole view like this. So I'm going to go to this JSON, copy this into my clipboard. I will go here, and the concept here is that I've got a sales and a cost, and then really that's all I want to show, sales and cost. I don't need to see anything else. So what I'm going to do is do some view formatting, format the current view, and I'll go to my advanced mode, paste that in, and preview. Right? So there's some overlapping issues we could quickly fix, but get the idea. You can change the whole view of how it looks, right? So let me cancel that guy, and I'll quickly show you a column graph. So here is, views, and the most read is if this was like a blog article. What you can do is do a view format on that, and you can do some cool stuff. I'm going to hit the back button a couple times, and this one is a column graph. Here we go. So we want it to look like this. Right, as long as you have those fields that it says, and you do a find and replace, you can make your whole data set look like that. So I go to the JSON, and I copy this guy into my clipboard, and I'll go back here, and I will format my view, paste it in here, preview it, and there we go. So you get to do some really, really powerful things like that, and there's so much things you could do on the column and view formatting. Last thing I want to show is the form formatting, because I didn't get to that. And how you get to that is pretty much the same type of deal here. So what I want to do is I go to my list formatting, and I go to my form samples, and it shows you different ways. And I'm going to just use this as an example because we're at time. I want to show, I want to show the title and description directly from here. right? When I go to the form, because the form is a pretty ugly view. So let's just go to that pizza one, best pizza in Chicago. And then when I click on it, this isn't really easy to read, right? So what I want to do is create a nice view of having this all in a nice, and in the header. So what I'm going to do is configure the layout. And then I go and copy this sample from this JSON, right? So I copy this. And then I just paste it in here. Preview. And now it looks a lot nicer. So now when anybody opens up the form, this is what they're going to see, right? And that's what I'm really interested in, the title and description. Okay, good. So that's about it. That covers our presentation today. And luckily, the demo gods were pretty much with me. So let's actually talk about the resources. So resources, there's lots on docs.microsoft.com, the GitHub location, a YouTube video where on the PNP YouTube channel and the Microsoft Tech community, they're always doing examples of formatting. There's also my links to my blog articles where I kind of went through them, and I'll make sure to update them for the rest. And what we'll do is, while we're transitioning to the next speaker, if anybody has any questions in the chat. No questions. Okay, well, I guess I did a great job. So thank you so much, everybody. And look me up, and this is my contact information. Thank you so much, everyone.
Rez, thank you very much for your time and sharing your knowledge. Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And we will see you back here or in another session somewhere in about 6 minutes. Thank you all very much.